Yes.
Okay, so this practical, well, supposed to be practical, is going to cover connective tissue. So part of connective tissue, you can remember the special types of connective tissue includes the cartilage and bone. So we're going to cover that as well. There should be 10 pictures that we're going to look at. Okay, usually if it's in-person practical class, we're going to look at 10 slides, but this is not an in-person practical class. We're just going to look at pictures, but I think if you can also Google these pictures as well if you want to see more and more examples of it. All right, so we're going to look at the slide number 1, which is a teeth connective tissue. Okay, so teeth connective tissue is also known as your loose connective tissue or your areola connective tissue. If you can remember your connective tissue, you have the connective tissue proper, you have loose connective tissue, and you have dense. Okay, and dense, you have dense regular and dense irregular. Okay, and for dense regular, you further can subdivide it into dense regular collagenous or dense regular elastic. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at today for the connective tissue proper. So this here is a picture of the loose connective tissue, okay, or your uh, areola connective tissue. Okay, both of them means the same thing. Can you see my pointer? Can you see my pointer?
Yes, doctor.
Yes. Yes, Doctor, we can
Yes,
see.
okay. Because I did not, I lost my cable to my iPad, so I can't use the normal way that I usually do. So for this loose connective tissue, there are certain things that you need to identify. Okay, first you need to identify the fibroblasts, the fibrocyte, the collagen bundles, and elastic fibers. Okay, so fibers are quite easy to identify. Okay, if I were to look at this thicker band of fibers here, right? What fiber is this? The one in lighter pink.
Collagen fibers.
Okay, so these are your collagen fibers. The collagen fibers will appear in bundles, all right? And then the hair-like fibers here, that's a bit darker, okay, more purple, bluish purple. This here would be your elastic fibers. The elastic fibers also it can occur in bundles, but they're usually thinner than the bundles that are made up of collagen fibers. Okay, and if you see loose connective tissue, you see a lot of ground substance, a lot of spaces in between the fibers and the cells. Okay, because in if you look at the difference between loose connective tissue and a slide of dense connective tissue, you can certainly see the dense have so many fibers. Okay, less, but for loose, the fibers are there. Okay, there's a lot of fibers still, but it's not as much as what you find in the dense connective tissue. Okay, now you have to identify between the fibrocyte and fibroblast. It's slightly a bit difficult. Okay, so fibroblasts, you have it's going to be a bigger cell because it's active. Okay, the fibrocyte is quiescent, so it's already older cell. It will be in retirement, but the fibroblast will be bigger. It has a fusiform shape. You can see sometimes you can see the cytoplasmic processes, but it will have a large and oval nucleus. Okay, so if I were to look at this picture here, I would assume that this one here, okay, you can see this one looks like a fibroblast. Okay, another fibroblast there, another fibroblast there. They're quite big. They have a upper oval nucleus, as opposed to a fibrocyte. It will be a very small kind of cell, and you will have a small dark elongated nucleus. So this here looks like a fibrocyte. Okay, the nucleus is already sort of like not active anymore, so it's become quiet. Okay, that's a fibrocyte there. It's another fibrocyte there. But the bigger ones here, that you can see the nucleus are quite oval, plumpy in shape. Okay, these cells here are your other cells. These are your not your fibrocyte or fibroblast. Okay, looks like a macrophage there. Okay, but this one looks like a fibrocyte. This one looks like a fibrocyte. This one here looks like a fibroblast. Fibroblast, another fibroblast. Another picture we can look at is this is just an example that I've gotten. Okay, you see the ones that are labeled in A, they're quite bigger cell, as opposed to the one in B, the nucleus has gotten shrunken. This is a fibrocyte, and this is a fibroblast. Another example would be something like this. Okay, there's a fibroblast there, another fibroblast. The bigger cell, because they need to be quite active, and this is a fibrocyte, another fibrocyte there. Okay, so that's what a loose or areolar connective tissue would look like. Any questions with this? Did you manage to label the picture?
Yes, doctor. Can doctor.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, right? Okay, now we're going to move on to the lungs. Okay, for the lungs slide here, what we're going to look for is we're going to look for the, what do you call that? Macrophage. Okay, so macrophages, you can be either a one-ring cell or a fixed cell, okay, depending on its location. So macrophages, they are circulating in the body, in the bloodstream. Those are one-ring cells. But macrophages that are a resident of a certain type of organ, they are what you know and what you call a fixed cell. So those are in the skin, in the liver, in the nervous system. They are quite they are fixed cells in the central nervous system. But the one that you find here in the lungs, it's been called to come there. So they're wandering cells, and they're going to fight off pathogen. Okay, so macrophages, you find that they have irregular outlines, so they have irregular shapes. You can't really tell. You can't really say there's one certain shape to a macrophage. Okay, they are quite irregular. But what they have is they have this nuclei that, and also they have a lot of phagocytous material in the cytoplasm. Okay, so you want to look at this picture here. These are all the parenchyma of the lung. Okay, and you can see the red color here. These are your red blood vessels, the red blood cells. Okay, and here in the alveoli, you can find one macrophage. Okay, so it can be this shape, it can be a different shape, but the nucleus is there, and you can, if you were to have a clearer picture, you can zoom a little more. You can see phagocytous material in there. So this wandering cell, they come because they can find pathogen. Okay, they are supposed to look for pathogens, and they're called upon there, and they will phagocytose the cell. Okay, so macrophage, they have a lot of what is known as what do you call that, lysosomes, because they need to break down um, the material, the pathogens that they come across. All right, and now we're going to move on to the next connective tissue, which is your dense irregular. Okay, so if you will look at the skin here, this is a slide of the skin. Okay, the skin has layers. So in here we can see that you have papillary layer, which is loose connective tissue, reticular layer of the dermis, okay, made up of dense irregular, and then you can find in the hypodermis, you can find the, what you call that, adipose tissue. Okay, so this here, it will be the epithelium. Okay, at the topmost here, that's your epithelium. So if it's the skin, you can bet that it's going to be stratified squamous keratinized. Okay, for skin, stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. So just under the skin here, you can see the papillary layer of the dermis. Okay, dermis will be loose connective tissue. If you were to zoom here, you will find that it will look like this. Okay, right? But so that's your loose connective tissue in the reticular layer, the papillary layer of the dermis. And then we look down here, this will be the reticular layer of the dermis. You can see that it's more dense. There's more fibers that are taking up the space here as opposed to this one. This one is quite lightly stained because you don't have a lot of fibers. You have a lot of empty space, a lot of brown substance. Okay, but this year would be more dense, brighter staining because you have more fibers in that area, and there's no organization to it. Because if there's no organization to it, it's going to be dense but irregular connective tissue. And then if you were to look deeper, you find that you see a lot of empty spaces here. Okay, this is supposed to be your adipose tissue, but obviously you don't see, it appears empty because you've already removed the fat droplets, the lipid molecules when you prepare the slide. Okay, so in a section of the skin, you find your epithelium up. Okay, deeper to the epithelium, you find the papillary layer of the dermis, which is going to be loose connective tissue. All right, and then the reticular layer is going to be the dense, irregular connective tissue. And then deeper to that will be your hypodermis, which is going to be made up of your adipose tissue. Okay, so in the adipose tissue, you can find we zoom in further. Okay, so you can see the adipocytes. Okay, one adipose cell will be your adipocyte. All right, and you can see that the cytoplasm has been pushed to the periphery. Okay, this is all supposed to be cytoplasm, but it's been pushed because of the lipid droplets that is supposed to take up the space here. And you can find that the nucleus has also been pushed to the rim. Because it's pushed aside, the nucleus will be flattened. So you can see all the nucleus here, all flattened. Nucleus, and nucleus there, and nucleus there, and nucleus there. So nucleus and cytoplasm has been pushed to the periphery, and the nucleus is all flattened. And this appears empty, again, because you have processed it with the solvents that you need to process the slide, prepare the slide. Okay, the solvents are alcohol and xylene. Okay, any questions? If not, we move on to the slide to show your dense regular connective tissue. So dense regular connective tissue, you have two types, dense regular collagenous or dense regular elastic. So this is an example of dense regular collagenous. You find it in ligaments or in tendons. So dense regular collagenous is very good when you're trying to help with we try to resist force from only one direction. Okay, so like in ligaments or in tendon where you only move your limbs in one direction. So you have this dense regular collagenous connective tissue. It helps to strengthen the structure. Okay, it's not good if you have like many forces from many sides. Okay, it's only good for one way kind of force. So this here is your dense regular collagenous. So you can see that you have parallel bundle of collagen fibers. So these are all the collagen fibers that are parallel to each other. Okay, and interspersed between those collagen fibers, you find cells. So these here are your fibrocytes. Okay, so the fibrocytes will be parallel as well because they're gonna be like stuck in between all the bundles because it's very dense kind of connective tissue. So there's not much space. The only space that they can find to embed themselves is in between all the collagenous fibers. The dense, regular, collagenous connective tissue. Everything is nicely organized. They look very nice. Everything is symmetrical. Everything is just parallel to each other. So this is dense, regular, collagenous. Then we go to dense, regular, elastic. So dense, regular, elastic, you can see the elastic fibers. They're also arranged in parallel. But you know how elastic fibers look like? They're thinner and they have like this wavy-like consistent shape to it. Okay, so they look similar to each other, but they have this parallel wavy like pattern to it. So you can see the difference here. Okay, this one you don't have that hair like thin exhibition of what elastic fibers is. Okay, but here you have this wavy like thin hair like properties that you can find only in elastic fibers. Okay, so this is dense, regular, elastic. And it has to be dense because you don't see a lot of spaces. Everything is very compact together. And it's regular because it's nicely organized. And it's elastic because you have thin hair-like wavy pattern. So you can tell the difference, okay, between the collagenous, dense, regular collagenous and dense, regular, elastic. So where do you find dense, regular, elastic? Yes, let's see. Altaf, where do you find dense, regular, elastic connective tissue?
In your cartilage.
In your cartilage. If cartilage, then it will be a kind of elastic cartilage. This is dense, regular, elastic connective tissue. It's connective tissue proper. We haven't gone to the connective tissue, specific connective tissue.
In
You have an idea?
maybe in the elastic lamina of the muscle.
Muscle. Well, muscle, you won't have connective tissue. You have your muscle tissue there. Okay, remember you have many types of cells. Okay, so cells will make up your tissue. So connective tissue, muscle tissue, nervous tissue. Okay, all right. We'll try another person. Let's go down. How about Muhammad Daniel? Muhammad Daniel? Muhammad Daniel bin, I cannot see your full name. Muhammad Daniel is not here. Okay, looks like someone signed in but gone off. How about Nur Atika Adriana? Nur Atika Adriana. Oh, a lot of people just sign in and then go off. How about Nurul Zulaika? Nurul Zulaika? Yes.
Yes, doctor.
Where can we find? Oh, there's two Nurul Zulaika. Nurul Zulaika Alia and Nurul Zulaika only. Okay, Nurul Zulaika only. Where do you find your dense, regular, elastic connective tissue?
Dense, regular, elastic connective tissue, right?
Yeah, this one here.
And ligamentum flavum.
Ligamentum flavum, okay? Ligamentum flavum, or if you just look at your own, practical, you just look up here, you can see slide number 5 is from the aorta. Okay? It's not that difficult. Okay, it's actually already, the answer is already there. But ligamentum flavum is also where you find your dense, regular, elastic connective tissue. Thank you, Nur Zulaika. So just now we lost Muhammad Daniel and who did I ask just now? Something with an Adriana at the back of the.
Doctor,
Yes.
Muhammad Daniel is here, but his mic is not working. He's typing in chat.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hello, Muhammad Daniel. Okay,
Doctor, sorry, I went to the toilet just now without informing you.
it's fine. Okay, come. All right. Okay. Are you all okay with your proper connective tissue? So we've seen a loose connective tissue. We've seen dense, regular connective tissue. We've seen dense, regular, elastic, dense, regular, collagenous, and we've seen the dense, irregular. So 4 slides on connective tissue proper, but we've also got a slide on the adipose tissue, adipocytes, okay, to show you what sites look like. And also there was also a slide that showed you the macrophage, okay, which is the component of connective tissue as well, the one ring of fixed. Okay, macrophages can be both. Okay, now we're going to move on to your cartilages. How many types of cartilages are there? Let me do, wait, I can't see people. Show participants. Tay Yi Chin. Tay,
Doctor.
hello. How many types of cartilages are there?
3.
3 types, good. Yasmin Yohanis. Yasmin Yohanis. Yasmin Yohanis. Yasmin Zulaika.
Yes, doctor.
Can you name me one type of cartilage that you know?
Fibrocartilage.
Fibrocartilage. Thank you, Yasmin Zulaika.
Yeah.
Srivatana. 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 Sri Vaishnavi. Oh, Srivatana. Yes. Can you name another type of cartilage other than fibrocartilage?
Elastic cartilage, doctor.
Okay, good. And
Okay.
one more. Sharif Waka. Sharif?
Yeah.
Waka Hisham.
Cartilage.
Your name would be Waka, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Waka, another type of cartilage.
Hyaline cartilage.
Hyaline. Okay, so hyaline, fibrocartilage, and elastic cartilage are the three types of cartilage that is in the three different types of cartilage that you have. Okay, so if you want to look at this picture, this is a picture of your hyaline cartilage. Okay, so what are the features of your hyaline cartilage? Okay, so you can see on the outside here, you'll find perichondrium. Okay, so if it's a covering of your cartilage, it will be called perichondrium. If it's a covering of your bone, it will call periosteum. So it essentially is a covering. Okay, so they're all referring to a layer of covering just outside of the structure. So since this is a cartilage, so this is your layer of perichondrium. In perichondrium, you'll have two layers. Okay, you have an outer layer where you have the dense irregular connective tissue. So this, you can see this structure here is dense, but you don't have any organization to it. So dense irregular connective tissue. And on the inner side, you can see cells. So these are all your chondroblasts. Okay, very, very early chondroblasts. All right, so that's our perichondrium, okay, and the most superficial. And then when you go inside, you can see the chondrocytes are in lacuna. Okay, so chondrocytes are in their isogenous group, or you call it the nest cells in your lacuna, and it's going to be stuck with another another chondrocyte that's also in the lacuna, and these are all your isogenous group. So you have this because you go through mitosis, the cell goes through the mitosis, and you get the same type of cell. So that's why they call it isogenous group of cells. All right, so these are all your chondrocytes in lacuna, okay, in isogenous groups. And then you have the matrix. Okay, matrix are the ground substance or your extracellular matrix that are located nearby a cell. All right, so the matrix here, if it's near the cell, you call it territorial. Okay, you can see this chondrocyte here. Okay, you can see this chondrocyte. Okay, this one, the matrix surrounding it, it's darker in color. So this is your territorial matrix, but another territorial matrix there. Okay, in between is called your inter-territorial matrix. So inter-territorial would be lighter in color. Okay, nearby a cell would be your territorial matrix, would be darker. In between all the cells would be the inter-territorial, which is lighter. And you can see that the what do you call that? The ground substance here, the extracellular matrix here, is all, it looks similar to each other. You can't differentiate between the ground substance and the fibers. Okay, the extracellular matrix looks homogeneous. Okay, and remember why you can't see the collagen fibers or the fibers in between. You can't differentiate between the collagen fibers and the ground substance is because they have the same refractory index. Okay, very similar refractory index. So you can't differentiate between the fibers and the ground substance. So the extracellular matrix here looks homogeneous. Okay, apart from it being slightly darker around chondrocytes and paler with the interterritorial matrix, they look all homogeneous. Okay, this is because of the same refractory index between the fibers and the ground substance. Okay, so this is what a hyaline cartilage will look like. Perichondrium, and then you have your chondrocytes in lacuna in isogenous cells, and then you have matrix, okay, territorial matrix that's darker, and interterritorial matrix that is more pale than the territorial matrix. And then we can have a look at fibrocartilage. So this is what a fibrocartilage would look like. Okay, so fibrocartilage, what are the features of fibrocartilage is you can actually see the collagen fibers. And the collagen fibers look quite thick. Okay, and it's arranged quite nicely as well. So parallel bundles of collagen fibers. And then you can see the chondrocytes interspersed in between the collagen fibers. And they're also within lacuna. Okay, you can see the space surrounding the chondrocyte. So one chondrocyte within lacuna, another chondrocyte with lacuna there. So this kind of looks like dense, irregular, collagenous connective tissue, but the cells here are slightly different. Okay, if you look at this picture and you look at this picture, they look kind of similar. Okay, but here your fibrocytes, they look different than your chondrocytes. So that's your chondrocytes there, right? So you have chondrocytes interspersed in between the collagen fibers, and they're all in lacuna. Okay, this is what a fibrocartilage would look like. And then lastly would be your elastic cartilage. Note that your fibrocartilage, you don't have perichondrium, okay? No perichondrium for your fibrocartilage. Elastic cartilage, you still have perichondrium, okay? Perichondrium would be more superficial, okay? And then you can see this black hair-like structures. So these black hair-like structures here are actually your elastic fibers. Okay, remember elastic fibers will always look like very thin, okay, like hair, and it will be dark. The elastic fibers are dark hair-like structures. So you can see the elastic fibers interspersed in the matrix, and the chondrocytes are actually quite big for the elastic cartilage. You can see very, very big chondrocytes. They look like, one of those types of mushroom that you cut open. They look like that. Okay, so it's very peculiar to elastic cartilage. You have this large chondrocyte in the lacuna with dark hair-like structures interspersed in between the matrix, and these are your elastic fibers. And don't forget that you can find the perichondrium that will cover the elastic cartilage. Okay, so cartilages are quite you only have 3 types of cartilages, and all of them look very, very different from each other. Hyaline cartilage, fibrocartilage, and elastic cartilage. So if I give you a slide, okay, this is a cartilage, identify it. It's quite easy because the 3 cartilages that you know are very, very different from each other. Okay, so now we're going to look at the bone. Any questions on cartilage? No questions, okay? So now we're going to look at the bone. Remember, you have woven bone or you have lamellar bone, okay? So woven bone, which one is mature and which one is immature? The woven bone or the lamellar bone?
Lamella.
Lamella is?
Lamella is matured bone.
Okay, lamella is mature bone and woven bone is immature bone. But remember, your woven bone will eventually turn to lamellar bone once it matures. All right. So for the lamellar bone, for the mature bone, you also have 2 histologically different bones. Okay. One is called the compact bone. All right. And the other is called the spongy bone. The spongy bone is also sometimes referred to as your trabecular bone because it has a lot of trabeculae. All right. So this here is a picture of a compact bone. Okay. So it's a and this here is the way that they prepare this slide is through they ground the bone until they will remove the you don't see the the matrix so much. Okay, so what do we see? There are certain features that you have to know with this slide. Okay, if I give you a slide of ground bone, right? So first, you have to know that it's all going to be made up of your Haversian system. Okay, so this is one Haversian system, another Haversian system, another Haversian system. All right. If it's being labeled as periosteum on the outside here and endosteum here, this is quite important when we want to where we want to name the lamella. Okay, the different lamella. Okay, so the lamella that you have to know, there's 4 lamella that you have to know. One is called the Haversian lamella, the interstitial lamella, and also the inner and outer circumferential lamella. So for circumferential lamella, it has to depend whether it's near the endostem or the periosteum. If the endostem is here, okay, so this lamella here are called your inner circumferential lamella. All right, and if the periosteum is on the outside, okay, above here, then the lamella that's on the outside here are called your outer circumferential lamella. Okay, and then the lamella that surrounds one canal here, this is a Haversian canal. All the lamella that surrounds one Haversian canal, this is called your Haversian lamella. Okay, so one Haversian, the Haversian lamella here, Haversian lamella here, Haversian lamella here, and then you have the lamella that is in between Haversian lamella. This is called your interstitial lamella. Okay, interstitial lamella here, interstitial lamella here, interstitial here, some interstitial lamella here. Okay, so again, near endosteum would be the inner circumferential lamella. Near periosteum would be the outer circumferential lamella. If it's surrounding a Haversian canal, that's your Haversian lamella. If it's in between, that's your interstitial lamella. All this interstitial here, interstitial here, more interstitial here. And what about the canals? So this is a canal here. This is called your Haversian canal. Another Haversian canal, another Haversian canal. And when 2 Haversian canals connect to each other, they call it the Waltzmann Canal. So you see one Haversian, another Haversian, and there's a channel connecting it. Okay, this here would be your Waltzmann Canal. So what do you find in your Haversian canal? What can you find in the Haversian canal?
Nerves, bone marrow.
Wait. What do you find in your Haversian canal, Nick Muhammad Shahir?
Nerve and blood.
Nerve, blood vessels. Okay, also you can find lymphatics. All right. And what do you find in the Waltzmann Canal, Nur Eliana? Nur Eliana.
Canal.
Waltzmann, yes.
Can find.
Not sure?
I'm not sure.
Not sure. How about Amira Farhana? Amira Farhana? I see Amira just now. Amira. How about Akash? What do you find in the
They
Waltzmann
have
Canal? Sorry?
blood vessels.
Blood
blood vessels.
vessels, yes. Yes, so artery and veins. Okay, you don't really have nerves in your Waltzmann Canal. Okay, so if we were to focus, okay, higher zoom on one osteon, okay, so that's your Haversian canal, okay, these are all your Haversian lamella, okay, we just focus on one osteon here. We can see 2 features, okay, one is osteocyte. Okay, osteocytes are these cells here. These are all actually your osteocytes. Osteocyte, another osteocyte. And if you were to look clearly, okay, each osteocyte, you find that they have projections. Okay, they have this hair-like projection that will communicate with the other hair-like projection from the other osteocytes. These are all your canaliculi. Okay, so this canaliculi of this osteocyte is actually connected to this canaliculi of this osteocyte, and they make it so that all the osteocytes are all interconnected with each other. Okay, this is why the bone is very good in growing, in healing, because you have all this connection with each other. Okay, so blood from the Haversian canal can easily go from one osteocyte to the other. So even the osteocyte is the furthest from the blood supply, you can still get good supply of blood, because all the osteocytes, they work together, so they can communicate with each other, and they can help to provide the nutrients or the oxygen that is needed. Okay, so they're very, very good in that sense. Okay, so that's your your compact bone. Okay, so compact bone here, when you look at it from far, you can see all the different lamella, and you can see the canals. Okay, you can see the example of Waltzmann's here. It's quite difficult to get a good section with a Waltzmann's canal. Okay, when you look at a higher zoom, you can look at the osteocytes and the canaliculi. All right, so now we're going to move on to the call that cancellous bone, okay, or trabecular bone. Okay, trabecular bone are the spongy bone that's in the middle. Okay, so the compact bone will usually be more on the outside, and the spongy bone or the cancellous bones on the inside. Okay, there are certain what do you call it, features that you can see with the cancellous bone or the trabecular bone. Okay, you can see a bony spicule. If you see these two different colors, the darker color here, this is your bony spicule. Okay, this bony spicule here is actually the one that we call trabeculae. Okay, trabeculae. Okay, so this is why you have a lot of trabeculae in your cancellous bone, to give it a spongy appearance. Okay, so the darker one here is all your bony spicule. So all of this is also your hardened matrix. Okay, so that's in your, if you look at, you identify a trabeculae, okay, a trabeculae, and then you try to look at the cells around the trabeculae or inside the trabeculae. So if you look at the cells around the trabeculae at the periphery here, these are all going to be your osteoblasts. Okay, osteoblasts there. Depending on how active the cells are, okay, it will be either flattened in shape. Okay, so you can see the osteoblasts here are all flattened. Okay, flattened osteoblasts. That means it's not very active. It's not actively secreting your matrix. Okay, so but if you see it becomes more cuboidal or columnar, it becomes slightly bigger. Okay, then that means this osteoblasts around here are the active osteoblasts. That means it's actively doing its job to secrete to make more bones. All right. On the inside of the trabecula, on the inside of this bony spicule, you can see these are all your osteocytes. So osteocytes are inside, within the lacuna, inside the trabecula. Okay, they don't reside in the periphery. These are all only osteoblasts, and in the middle here you find your osteocytes. Right, and another cell, okay, for bone usually you talk about 3 cells: osteoblast, osteocyte, and osteoclast. So osteoclasts, you can find they're big cells, okay, multinucleated giant cell, and this here is an example of an osteoclast. Okay, you can see this cell here is quite big, many nucleus. This is your osteoclast. This looks like it's going to be an osteoclast here. Okay, this is your osteoclast. So osteoclast, the job is to resorb the bone. Okay, osteoblast builds the bone, osteoclast will eat the bone. Right, and osteoclast, you live in this indentation here. You can find a little indentation of your trabeculae. Okay, and this is where the osteoclast will be located. So this area here, where the osteoclast is located, what do you call this area? Wait, don't answer. Let me find someone to answer. Kevin.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, where do osteoclasts reside?
Located within the surface depression in the matrix, known as the
What is that?
house-shaped lacuna. Yeah.
All right, good. So that's called house-shaped lacuna. Okay, you find an indentation. Okay, and then you find this multinucleated cell. Okay, that's your osteoclast, and this area here is your house-shaped lacuna. Okay. All right. Next and lastly will be the epiphyseal plate. Okay, and the growth of your epiphyseal plate to become bone. Okay, there are going to be 5 zones. Okay, going from when the cells, the chondroblasts, are just being chondroblasts. Okay, and then it will eventually grow and grow and grow and become bone. Okay, will be the last zone will be zone of ossification. Okay, so ossification means bone. Right. So the first zone is located here. Okay, the you can see that you have a few cells. Okay, and the cells are all very randomly arranged. There's no organization to it. Okay, you have your chondroblast just living on the fringes of the what do you call that? The epiphyseal plate. Okay, and this here is called the zone of reserve cells. Okay, zone of reserve cells, very randomly arranged chondroblasts. Okay, and then after they get some signal, then it will go into what you call zone of proliferation. Now the chondroblasts will differentiate to become chondrocytes, and the chondrocytes will all be stacked together. So you can see all the chondrocytes are stacked together like coins. So this is called the zone of proliferation. Okay, the chondrocytes are all it has become more mature. It has become a mature cell called chondrocytes, and now they're all stacked together. So that's your zone of proliferation. And then after that, the cells will increase in size. Okay, and it will appear empty because you have a lot of glycogen storage. So you can see from small chondrocytes, it will slowly become very big. Okay, so once you proliferate, okay, you have reserve first, and then you proliferate, becomes many stacked up together, and then you become big. Okay, you become big, you accumulate a lot of glycogen. We call it zone of hypertrophy. So hypertrophy is growing in size. Okay, hyperplasia will be growing in number. Hypertrophy means growing in size. So you can see that the chondrocytes that are small here, that will increase its size within the lacuna and will appear empty because it will be filled with glycogen. Okay, and once they enter this zone of hypertrophy, they don't proliferate anymore. All right, they will just increase in size. Okay, and then down here you can see that the chondrocytes will actually undergo apoptosis, and you have minerals accumulating in the lacuna, in the matrix, in the matrix here. So this here is already zone of calcification. So when you accumulate minerals in the matrix, you call it, okay, which makes sense. So down here will be zone of calcification. And then lastly would be when the cartilage itself will undergo ossification. So you can see that the lacuna is all mashed up together. Okay? They appear to be one big. Uh, they appear to be very, it has no division anymore between each lacuna. So this here would be the zone of ossification. Okay, you can see the difference between this zone and this zone. This is calcification, this is ossification. Okay, so the zone of reserve cell, okay, reserve cells, and then they will proliferate, or they will divide and proliferate, become more cells, and they'll stack up together, and then the cells will grow bigger, so hypertrophy, and then they will accumulate mineral in the matrix. That's your calcification, and eventually the cartilage will undergo ossification, and that's your zone of ossification. Okay, so this is how the epiphyseal plate becomes bone. This is how how you grow in length, how you become taller, because your epiphyseal plate is constantly making more and more bony material. So your long bones become longer. Okay, any question? I hope that uh, nicely summarizes your lectures of connective tissue and cartilage and bone. Okay. If you have no question, Umar, can you release your what do you call that? a tendon's link.
Excuse me, doctor.
Yes.
I have a question. For fibroblasts, we don't have any perichondriums on it, right? So where does it come from? Who synthesizes the fibroblasts?
For fibroblasts, for fibrocartilage, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. Fibrocartilage, yes.
Okay, so fibrocartilage, you don't have perichondrium. You even though you don't have perichondrium, you still have what do you call that? Fibro progenitor cells, and you have fibroblasts as well. It's just that they don't. When you have perichondrium, they can help to, repair it a little bit, degree of, because you still have this reserve cells, reserve immature cells. But for fibrocartilage, if you don't have this reserve cells, okay, because you don't have the perichondrium. Okay, perichondrium is where you find your immature fibroblasts. But because you don't have that, that means when you injure it, okay, you really can't do much for it. It will just be a fibrous repair. Okay, it won't be a fibrocartilage repair because your fibroblast is not there anymore. Sorry, your fibroblast, your chondroblast. Okay, so when they are growing, okay, obviously they're going to have their cells, their progenitor cells to go there. But this is what we're talking in mature cartilages. Hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage, they have these reserve cells. They have this early chondroblast, so they can repair itself, but fibrocartilage cannot because of this particular reason.
All right, thank you,
Okay,
doctor.
so the reason why you always have this chondroblast is to help in, because these are all mature cartilages. These are cartilages that are already formed. Okay, so in that sense is the importance of having the perichondrium lah. But when you're building something, obviously you will have the chondroblast there. Okay, in embryos or in children. Okay.
Okay, understood.
All right. Any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, if not,
yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
About the dense regular connective tissue, right? Does the arrangement of collagen fiber affect the connective tissue other than just giving it its appearance? Like, what is the function of does the arrangement do anything to the connective tissue, or does it have like a purpose or something like that? Yeah, that's my doubt, doctor. Thank you.
Okay, so dense regular connective tissue, for especially when you say collagenous, like kan, okay, then you see collagen fibers are all parallel to each other. Remember when I say that if you can find it a lot in ligaments and in tendons. So this helps because you're trying to resist force from one direction. So that's why they're all stacked on top of each other. That means if you pull it, it can resist the force. Okay, if you pull it this way and this way, it will be able to resist the force. Okay, but if you have something like dense irregular, okay, you find it in your skin, underneath your skin, in the papillary layer of your skin. Your skin, it has to resist force from all kinds of direction. Shear force from the top, from the side, from almost 360 degrees. So that's why it's arranged in a dense irregular fashion, because you have dense because you always have to have the fibers to be able to resist the force, but irregular because it has to resist the force from all kinds of direction. That's the reticular layer of the dermis. Okay, because if you push your skin, you can push from all kinds of direction. Okay, but for tendons and ligaments, they're all arranged very nicely. Okay, Kirtana, you have your camera on. They're all arranged parallel to each other because you only have to resist force from one direction. So that's why certain structures are made up of certain organization. Okay, dense irregular is good to resist force from all kinds of direction. Albeit it's not going to be able to resist the same amount of force. Dense regular collagens is very strong. Okay, your tendons, your ligaments are very strong, but they can only do one direction. Okay, like the ligaments of your knee, the tendons of your muscle. Okay, because you they have very specialized function, and they're supposed to be strong, but they're not they're not all rounded, kind of the way you can think about it. Okay, Kitana, you still have your camera on. Yeah, any other questions? Does that answer your question? Hello? Hello?
Yes, doctor. Thank you. Oh, wait. It
Okay.
wasn't me.
It wasn't you, but I hope it makes it clear for everybody. Okay, if there's no more question, then I think we will dismiss you for today. Thank you very much, and see you around. Assalamualaikum, and almost good afternoon. Bye.
Thank you, doctor.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you,
Thank you,
doctor.
doctor.
Have a nice day.
Thank you,
You too.
doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor.